I'm going to show you the correct way to set up a chessboard. It's amazing to watch people who like to play chess grab a chessboard and the pieces and throw the board down, set up pieces, and start to play. There's a lot of times I've seen them set up the board incorrectly, so let's talk about what needs to be done in order to play an appropriate game of chess. The first thing you need to do is to make sure that you follow the saying white on right. So it's very important that when you lay the chessboard down in front of you, that you see a white square on your right hand side, whether you're white or black, whether you're playing the white pieces or the black pieces. You should see a white square on the right hand side. That's how you know the board is facing the right direction. That's important. Now, the other thing you should know is when you set up pieces, that remember there are numbers and letters on a board. There are files which are labeled by letters, the A file and the B file, and the C, D, E, F, G, and H files. There are also ranks. There's the first rank, rank 1, and rank 2, and rank 3, and so on, all the way up to 8. Well, the white pieces always go on the A1 side. The way I try to help people remember that is when you play a game of chess, the white pieces do move first, and therefore think of them as playing on the 1 side for the first move. Maybe that'll help you remember which side of the board the white pieces should be placed on. Now, to actually play a game, it wouldn't probably really matter where the white pieces are and where the black pieces are. However, it's going to become very, very important in tournament play and communicating your games and recording history. It's very crucial that the white pieces are placed on the A1 side. And similarly, the black pieces are placed on the ranks 7 and 8 on the opposite side of the board. So just make sure that when you lay the board down in front of you, you have a white square on the right hand side, and that the white pieces go on the A1 side, the 1 side, 1 and 2 ranks, and that the black pieces go on the 7th and 8th ranks. Now, let's talk about pieces and their placements on the board. First of all, there are the pawns. The pawns are kind of the first line of defense, if you will, for the armies of the white pieces and the black pieces. Okay, the pawns should always be lined up for white on the 2nd rank and for black on the 7th rank. And it's basically pretty straightforward. You just place the pawns as a straight line on those ranks. As far as the next piece, the rooks go in the corners. Now, a lot of people call these the towers or the castles, but they are called the rooks. However, if you want to think of them as castle towers or turrets, then their placement makes a lot of sense here. Because when you think of the corners of castles, you think of turrets or towers placed in the corners for protections of the walls and things like that. That's basically what they are. Okay, but they are called rooks. We need to make sure that we use the right terminology. The rooks are placed in the corners, so they would be placed on the A1 square. They would be placed on the H1 square, on the H8 square, and on the A8 square. Next piece that we should talk about is the knights, or I'll work my way in from the outer edge of the board. Okay, these are the knights. Yes, people like to call these the horses, the horsies, the ponies, whatever, but these are the knights. We should call these the knights. The knights are placed next to the rooks. Remember, they are the only piece that can jump, but they are placed on the B1 square, on the G1 square, on the G8 square, and on the B8 square. Next, working my way in, the next piece that should be placed is the bishops. The bishops are the taller pieces with the pointed tops, and those are placed next, which are on the C1 square, the F1 square, the F8 square, and the C8 square. Now, there's only 2 pieces left. That's the king and the queen. Let me cover the queens first. Now, there's many times you sit down to play a chess match, and people do not place the king and the queen on the correct squares. So just make sure you understand where they belong. The easiest thing to remember, in my opinion, is that the queen should always be placed on her own color, meaning the light-colored queen should be placed on the light-colored square. The dark-colored queen should be placed on the dark-colored square. So they should be placed in these positions. I have the white queen placed on the light square. I have the dark queen placed on the dark square. Or in other words, the white queen should be on d1, the black queen should be on d8. Queens match their color. Then naturally there is only one piece left, and that's the king to fill in the final position. It's also important to note, really, before you start a game, that you might want to just double check to make sure that the queens are lined up. They are sitting there in a straight line, because I know there are a lot of times where I have sat down to play a game of chess. I apologize for that. There's times I've sat down to play a game of chess and the queens are not aligned across from the board. You know definitely if the queens aren't aligned across from the board that one of the two queens is in the wrong position. Because when you start a game of chess, the queen and the king should be aligned directly across from each other. So there you have it. I hope that helps you understand how to set up a chessboard. I would set them if you're new to chess or you maybe weren't sure where the knights and bishops go, or you switched the knights and bishops, or you weren't really sure where the queen was supposed to go from time to time. Now you know, and I would practice setting up the board, comparing it to this diagram, and you're ready to play a game of chess.